Hey everybody, it's Chris. I am back after a little bit of a hiatus from painting. I have lots of other things that I've talked to you about that I'm interested in. One of those being my laser. I have a laser cutter that I've actually done some different painting things on some of my cutouts. But today we're going to do a couple of blooms. I thought I would show you my setup for all of my pigments and my paints. I just spent like the last 2 days reorganizing all of this, and I have to say I might have a problem. That's the first step, right? Is admitting that you actually have a problem. Anywho, up here on the upper shelves, I have all of my pigments. They're all Little Piggy pigments, and I have them organized kind of by rainbow. I tend to like to organize things by rainbow. And then down below, I have some of the iridescent pigments. Down on the lower shelves are some that I don't really love just because I had to have a little bit more room above. So I thought, well, let's put some of those down below that I don't use as much. Over here to the right, you'll see I have clear acrylic shelves, and those have my paints on them. So with any of the blooms, when you're doing blooms or you're using the pigments, it's a good idea to have some paints in between the piggies. And so those are just my paint. Originally I had just the wrought iron shelves, which is actually I think a nail polish organizer, and it just wasn't enough space. So then I bought the clear acrylic shelves, and that definitely helped. My space is a little bit messy, but over here is my laser. And then I've got some plastic set up so that I can put my paints down, along with a whole stack of projects. We are going to be painting over here on the table, and let me go ahead and get this set up. Okay, now we're all set up here so we can paint. So as I was saying, I started to organize, and part of that organization was going through and cleaning up all of my pigments and all of my paints. A few weeks ago, I went to a retreat in Spokane, Washington, where I took a class with Lisa Marvin, and it was amazing. And since I've gotten back, I really wanted to concentrate on kind of getting things in place so that I could start to paint again. I really do love to paint, and I love to see what I can create. And that just really kind of pushed me to kind of get going again. And I picked up some really great tips, some great techniques that I hope to pass along to you in the next few videos. So as I was saying, I wanted to clean everything up. So some of my paints and my piggies had been mixed up for quite some time, probably over a year. Some were dried up. So it was kind of a mess. And I started out by just cleaning up the ones that were in the worst condition. And then as I went, I just kept going. And I still haven't counted how many containers I've cleaned up. And as you can see from the video, I did not mix up everything again. Just kind of had a few paintings in mind. And so I just kind of went with the colors that I wanted to do with those paintings, and then kind of take it from there. I really hate to waste materials. And so it was kind of sad for me to have to get rid of some of those things just because they hadn't been used. But I wanted to make sure that my consistencies were great, that my mixes were fresh. I even mixed up my cell activators. As you could see by the video, I did not mix up everything. I really hate to waste things, so it kind of made me sad to have to get rid of some of those things. But I also wanted to start fresh and know that all of my paints were going to be a good quality, and do everything I could to get the best results possible. So today, one of the things that I did while I was waiting for my flight from Chicago to Des Moines, I had a 3-hour layover that got extended to 3.5 hours, so that was fun, was to watch some of Lisa Marvin's videos. And I watched one video where she did a neutral palette, and it just really got my mind to thinking about how beautiful that could be. Definitely outside my box. If you have been watching me for very long, you know that I love the bright, fun, vibrant colors. So I thought I really want to give this a try. It could be really beautiful. And I had a thought about where it could hang. So with that in mind, I have two different options for a neutral palette. So we're going to work on two tiles. I'm going to pour them at the same time, and then we'll blow each bloom out separately. Another thing that I learned, kind of knew that though, that as you put your paints onto as you build your bloom, you have plenty of time to do that. Once you add the cell activator, you pretty much need to like work really quick and get it blown out before it sinks down into your paint. So we're going to build both blooms at the same time, and then we will blow out each bloom separately. I am going to kind of go over my palettes with you. The tiles are a great substrate to work on. They're very inexpensive. If you love what you do on the tiles, you can keep it. You can turn it into a trivet. You could actually frame it probably in a floating frame. If you like to do jewelry, you could also peel it off and make jewelry out of it. The best thing is though, if you don't like it, you can wash it off and dry it, and it's all ready to go for the next try. One thing I will say is blooming does take a little bit of practice. I've been doing blooming now for probably 6 years, and I still don't feel like I'm always really great at it. I did pick up some tips that hopefully will help me to get better. The paintings I did at the retreat, I actually did enjoy most of them. I don't think I scraped anything, but part of that was I wanted to learn from my mistakes as well. But don't give up. If you're not sure how to do it, if you're not sure that you love it, don't keep it if you don't want to. I mean, there's nothing wrong with scraping it off and trying again. But it will take some practice, so don't give up. You can do this. All right, so our color palette, we're going to start with a base of warm gray. This is the first paint in our bloom. This is an opaque paint, and opaque paints tend to thicken up over time, something I learned a couple of weeks ago. So I did thin this down just a little bit with Josanya varnish. Our second is a piggy, and we're going to use Comet, which is an interference, and it kind of has a pink tint to it, which is not going to show up super great in my lights, but we're going to give it a go anyway. The other paint that I think is not necessarily, this one's a little bit thick, so I'm going to put just a little bit more varnish in it, is not necessarily totally neutral, is Payne's Gray. What I learned at the retreat was Amsterdam Payne's Gray is actually gray. The other brands of Payne's Gray actually have a little bit of a blue tint to it, which I kind of love the blue tint. As I said, not necessarily neutral, but I feel like it might help with the interference pigments and just kind of give it that little bit of pop that we might need. On the other version, instead of Payne's Gray, we're going to use Titan Buff. So this is definitely a nice little neutral paint, kind of a beigey color. The next one is a Piggy. We're working with 3 pigments and 3 paints. In the past, I am one that always probably does a lot more than 6. But again, at the retreat, I learned that, and I'm going to try and stick with that and see what we get. This is Twinkle, another interference, and it has a purple tint to it, which you can kind of see there. And then I have some Tri-Art Rose Gold. This is just such a beautiful color, and I kind of feel like I'm going to call it neutral because I think it can be neutral. It doesn't have like a ton of pink, but I almost feel like it's kind of a beigey pink, if you will, a taupey pink. So we're going to try that one. In the other version, that's the definitely neutral. This is Pearl Red. This is an Amsterdam Pearl Red color. And this one is an interference, which is kind of reddish pink. Hopefully will show up nicely. And then the last pigment we're using is Ball Gown. And this is a gold interference. She's really pretty. Okay, so that's our palette. We are going to use 2 different cell activators. We're going to use Old Holland Gold, which is this guy right here. And we're also going to use some Amsterdam White, this little guy right here. So the Amsterdam White will give us that really pretty lacing. And then the gold will just add a little bit of zhuzh to it. So I thought if we're doing a neutral color palette, those would be good options. I'm going to use some Sherwin-Williams Color to Go. The Color to Go seems to have changed their formulas a bit, and we used it at the retreat, and some of our paintings did not have super great results with it. This is tinted as Snowbound, so it's just kind of an off-white color, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and put some of this down. It's a little bit thinner than what it should be. I actually had this open probably for the last hour. It's probably going to have to be open a little bit longer. So we're going to put down a nice little zhuzhy here of this to make sure that we can get out to the edges. And then I think what we're going to do is go ahead and put our paints down, but I do want to come back. Let's just do this to make sure we can do the edges. So I'll come back and kind of smooth that out a bit. I did wipe my tiles down with a rubbing alcohol wipe just to make sure that they were, somewhat clean. They actually were quite dusty from sitting in here. With my laser running, it kind of creates some dust. So I did do that first. And so I'm just going to spread this out a bit, out to my edges, just so that the paint flows out. And I can always swoosh it around with my fingers if we need to, but just kind of want to make sure that we've got some paint on the edges there. And then I'm going to set this guy over here, and let's start to build some blooms. All right, so starting with warm gray. This is a Hobby Lobby color. I know that Amsterdam does have something similar to this, and I'm going to have to look it up. I meant to look it up before I started, and I totally spaced it off. But I will look it up, and when I edit, I will pop that down into the lower part of the screen for you. Next, we're going to do Comet, which is an interference. And just kind of going to squiggle this around a bit. So this is kind of just a test because whichever one is the most beautiful will become a larger canvas, which you guys will probably see later. Okay, Payne's Gray, we're going to do this over here on the side. Since this is an opaque pigment, we're going to kind of use it in moderation. This is the Titan Buff for the neutral side. It's definitely very neutral, isn't it? Next, we have Twinkle, another interference pigment. I gotta say, I'm already loving the Payne's Gray, but we'll see how she spins out and blows out. Okay, so there's our Twinkle. On the not so neutral, maybe we should call this the elevated neutral side. Okay, so the Tri-Art Rose Gold. And I don't want a ton of it. I just want kind of that little bit of blush color. And then on this side, we're going to use the Pearl Red Amsterdam. And then next will be Ball Gown on the top. And this is the gold. Now, this is kind of a yellowy, bright gold, and our Old Holland gold is kind of more of a deeper color. So I think what we'll do first is put down, let's do some of the white first. So I'm just going to pour down the Amsterdam white. And remember, I just want to do one bloom at a time. And then the Old Holland gold is going to go on top. I feel like that's really thin, but we'll see what we get. And then I'm going to blow out. Okay, let me pick this up and show it to you a little closer. Ooh, we have some really pretty cells. It's kind of hard to tell. I can see the interference if I tilt it just right. I feel like I did kind of blow down into the white here. Let's blow this out a little bit, just so we don't have a straight line. Okay, so let's do the same thing over here. We're going to do the white first, and then the gold. I do think my gold is way too thin. We're going to have to probably thicken that a bit. Okay. Well, I can definitely see some purple here that I'm really digging. This is very neutral. Kind of curious to see how it spins out. If I tilt, you can kind of see some of the interference, which is really pretty. I'm gonna spin this guy out first. So let me just kind of move this to the center. And I want to add just a tiny bit of white here where it hasn't, there's no white on the tile. So I don't want it to, kind of want it to slide across there so it's pretty. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more here to the outside of my bloom to make sure everybody moves like they need to. Okay, and do the same thing with this guy that I'm holding in my hand. Okay guys, let's see what we get when we spin this guy out. Let's just go like this so everybody's kind of connected. Okay. It's not moving a ton, is it? Normally I'm in my little puppy pool, but I decided I was going to try to be careful this time and not do that. So I don't splatter paint everywhere. Plus, if I do a bigger canvas, it's not going to fit in there anyway. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and tilt this down to this corner a bit to center it up a bit. Don't be afraid to stop and make sure that you've got the composition that you want. I do think I want just a little bit more paint here, just to make sure it's going to move. Probably could have used a little bit more to start with, but that's all right. We're going to make it work. We're going to spin out some more. You can see we're moving more now towards the corners. Just going to tip this down a little bit more. So I don't know, what do you guys think? Is it neutral? Is it soft enough? Should I have maybe not done the gold cell activator? I wonder if maybe I should have just stuck with, I do have some Payne's gray that's just the gray. Oopsies. Okay, now we're gonna put that down because now I gotta move. Thankfully, she just tipped onto the side. All is well, which actually might work out to our advantage because now you can see my corners are covered a little better. Just gonna tip this back over. I put the silicone mat on my cake turner in hopes that it would hang on to it, but I got a little too crazy, not gonna lie. I'm not sure about the gold cell activator. I don't know, maybe that was just too much. Maybe we'll choose our color palette and we'll do a gray and white with the neutral palette and see what we think about that. I do really love the colors though. I think it's really pretty. And once we get it spun out, maybe the gray will be, or the gold will be just fine. I just want to try and get I want to go over this edge if we can. So you want to spin it out until the paint is not moving anymore. So, and I'm definitely kind of getting down over the corners now. So you don't want to touch your design. I'm just putting some paint right here on this corner to help it kind of go over the edge. And then I think we're going to be about done. But this is really pretty. I will say that my little, I'm definitely not in the center anymore, but that's all right. I did get some really beautiful cells. I'm very happy about that. And we have some chameleon cells. All right, and I'm just gonna pick this up. I'm gonna check my edges real quick. This definitely is a contender to be able to be something else. So I'm just gonna use my fingers, make sure everything's over the edge, because if it is going to be something else, we want the edges to look nice. So just touching those up a bit and using some of my paint that's on my spinner. And just need this corner, and it looks pretty darn good. Okay, there we go, guys. What do you think? Kind of pretty. Sorry, got my ring light there. It's really pretty though. Definitely got the interference going. All right, let's set this back here out of my way. And then let's spin out this guy and see what we get. My doggos are wanting to come in. Okay, so let's see. I think this should spin out okay. I did put a little more paint on there. Sometimes if it's kind of going over the edge, it's definitely helpful to get things moving for you. Okay. Off my hand a little bit, and here we go. I have to say, I don't love the neutral palette, I don't think. But let's see what we get. I think it's just a little too plain Jane for me. I feel like the other one is not necessarily like super bold like you usually do, but this one is really, really neutral. Not sure I can make myself do it, guys. You can see all the interference though? I think that pearl red is really pretty in there. And maybe we break the rules and we do more than 6 to get things really beautiful. I don't know, we'll see. Uh-oh, did not mean to go right into my design with that. Okay. All right, keep spinning and see what we get. All right, I think that's pretty good. Let's lift this guy up. And let's clean up the sides a bit. Cover all of our bases. Okay, so here's this one. And I will take some close-ups of these as well. Sorry, the ring light is kind of a necessity for you guys to see this, but I mean, it's pretty, but it's really soft. Really soft. And I'm just not so sure about that. Okay, guys, I will put some close-ups at the end. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned to see which one I pick for the big one. Thank you.